So, after last week we were not filmed, and we spoke about the languages, and we spoke what is the source of the languages, and what is the source of basically what happened all over, in terms of creation maybe, and in terms of the count, how we count stuff, and how we actually how we know that the week has 7 days, and how we know that we count till 10 and we don't count until 11. So basically now we will talk about something that is connected and not connected in the same time. So let's see, we are in Ma'amar Rishon, Ot Samech of the Kuzari. And now the Kuzari is asking the Chaver, Ve'ech lo techlash ha'amanatcha במניין לבריאת העולם על ידי מה שמסופר לאנשי הודו קשר למסורות ומנהגים הקיימים לפי מה שהם חושבים לברור 1,000 אלפי שנים. We have over here an interesting question, because it seems that it's touching the core and touching the fundamental part of the discussion of the Chaver. Here's the Chaver said in the beginning that he's based on tradition. Right? He's based on his perspective towards life through tradition that is going from generation to generation to generation to generation. So what needs to happen? If we have a different tradition, so there's a question. So there's a contradiction, right? Because who said that this tradition is better than the other tradition? In the same way, we have the Jewish tradition regarding the creation, regarding the languages, regarding the human being. Moshe Rabbeinu, the human beings that can speak with God, the godly human being, Isha Elohim. So therefore, Hodu, they have a different tradition. What the Chaver will say over here. So now listen carefully to the answer of the Chaver. אמר החבר, דבר זה היה מחליש את האמנתי אילו הייתה לאנשי הודו במניין זה שיטה מקובלת או ספר שהסכים עליו כל העם ללא מחלוקת. אבל דבר כזה איננו איתם. להפך, האומה המחזיקה במניין ההוא הוא אומה שאין איתה מסורת. Let's stop over here for a second. What he says, and over here it's a little bit shocking. He says that if you would give me a different tradition, a tradition that is strong enough, that is based enough, I would do what? What will happen?
I would believe in a different tradition.
He didn't say I would believe in a different tradition. I would have what?
My belief would have been weakened.
Okay, so it will be a challenge. It will be now a fundamental question. It will be a problem for me. My faith will not be what? Perfect. Hayam machlish et emunati. But what they don't have, they don't have a tradition. Now the question is obvious. 1 second. The Kuzari asked a simple question. He said, they do have a tradition. And what you are saying, they don't have a tradition? Mi kava she'amasoret shecha yoter tova mishelo. And over here we're seeing something that I think will give us an interesting perspective regarding the claim of the Kuzari. Not every tradition is a tradition. Not every masoret is a masoret. There are criteria also for what? For a masoret. A masoret is a masoret only if it stands in different, only if it can be tested in different tests. And what I mean? He says, first of all, what is the tradition? שיטה מקובלת, או ספר שהסכים עליו כל העם ללא מחלוקת. אבל דבר כזה איננו איתם להפך. What is the tradition? A tradition is only if everyone does what? Agree. If there is the base, everyone agrees that this base is true. And there's no machloket regarding this base. One book, one detail, that according to everyone, this detail is the ultimate truth. ודבר כזה איננו איתם, להפך. Exactly the opposite. האומה המחזיקה במניין ההוא היא אומה שאין איתה מסורת ואין ציבור עניין לעם איתו. He said it's not true to say that they have a tradition. They have traditions. They have a lot of different perspectives. But so what? Who cares? So let's say they do not have a tradition. Let's say they have a lot of different narratives. That's a word, right? They have a lot of different narratives. They have a lot of different stories of creation. What's the problem with that? They had a lot of different traditions regarding the exact age of the universe. They have a lot of different books. So what? Maybe one of them is true. So then we need to understand a little bit more the perspective of the Kuzari. What is more natural for a human being? Is it more natural for a human being to have a lot of opinions? Or it's more natural for for a community of human beings to have a lot of different opinions? Or it's more natural for human beings to agree on something? Definitely to have a lot of different opinions. Why? Because we are different. The sense that we are different, what happens? There's tension among human beings. The concept of one, the concept of there's something that is one, is totally disconnected from what? From the nature of the human beings. It's totally disconnected from everything that is human. To be human means that you have what? You have conflicts among each other. You have conflicts inside yourself. 5 different human beings will not be able and capable to agree what is right and what is wrong. Obviously not a nation. The fact that you have a lot of different traditions in the same nation shows that what? That this nation doesn't have what? A tradition. They have traditions, but they don't have what? A tradition. We have over here a unbelievable claim towards what? Towards the Avodah Zarah. Avodah Zarah, I think that one person told me that in India he counted more than 6 million gods. It's a huge number. Again, it's not scientific, I'm not sure, but I heard that. And let's say you don't have 6 million gods. Let's say you have only 1 million, 100,000, 60,000. 60,000 gods, that sounds likely, right? Sounds reasonable in terms of India is a big state, it's a big country. Human nature will do what? Human nature will be that every person will create his own system. Every person will create his own God, right? That's human nature. In some way, human nature is anarchy. Human nature is pushing us to be ourselves, to survive as me. When you come and you claim that no, the entire nation did what? Agreed on one book. The entire nation agrees on one tradition. What happens over here? You don't show, definitely you don't show that your tradition, that this book is godly. But you show that the claim of this tradition is what? Is better, ultimately better, from the claim of a tradition that has 60,000 gods, 60,000 traditions. See my point over here? And that's the claim of Rabbi Yehuda Halevi. Rabbi Yehuda Halevi is not capable to come to the Indians and tell them, your traditions are not traditions. Actually he does, and we'll speak about it in a second. But for first stage, he is capable, definitely, to say my tradition is more solid. It's more reasonable to follow. But if you remember from the previous classes, from the previous shiurim, we gave a definition. What is tradition according to Rabbi Yehuda Alevi? What is tradition? Tradition is not only something that goes between father to son. Tradition is something that goes between father to son, and the claim is that it came from where? From the ultimate power. That is the meaning of the word tradition. The meaning, according to Rabbi Yehuda Alevi, of the word tradition is that it came at the end of the day from God, or in the name of God. That is a tradition. But something that didn't came from the name of God, that's not a tradition. He goes on and says, this tradition didn't come from the name of God. Let's see what he says. להפך, האומה המחזיקה במניין היא אומה שאין איתה מסורת ואין אצלה בירור עניין לאמיתו. בדבריהם על המניין מתכוונים הם. Now he has over here a line that is, I'm not sure how true it is, but still we need to read. רק להכעיס את בעלי הדתות, כשם שמכעיסים אותם בפסילי ליליהם ובלחשם ובתחבולותיהם המועילים להם לדעתם. בזים הם, now listen carefully, בזים הם, and that's the point, לכל האומרים כי יש בידם כתבי קודש מאת האלוה. Their religion, their perspective is to say what? If someone comes and says that my tradition is godly, or the source of my tradition is God, they say it can't be. It's not real. So therefore we can learn about what? About their tradition. Their tradition is tradition that is obviously stated by human beings, because they say it doesn't make any sense that this book, this tradition, is connected to God. It's only connected to human beings. You can learn from what they don't like about what they do like. They don't believe the fact that tradition can start from God. Tradition always starts with human beings according to them. So according to that, their tradition doesn't start from God, it starts from human beings. They have only a small amount of books. The human beings had wrote. That only a stupid person will believe. These books are basically like magician books. And they have tens of thousands of years. או כספר עבודת האדמה הנבטית, בו הוזכרו שמותיהם של יהושבד וציגרית ודובנה, שדברי הספר היו לפני האדם הראשון. יהושבד נאמר שם היה רבו של האדם הראשון וכיוצא בהם. He's mentioning books with names of peoples that were before Adam HaRishon. And according to this book, one of the names was the rabbi of Adam HaRishon. Now again, what he's not attacking over here? What?
No, that there's something before creation.
Like the other monotheistic religions.
That's definitely not attacking the other monotheistic religions. But what he's not attacking?
That there's something before.
He's not attacking the claim that there's something before creation, or something before Adam HaRishon, not creation. He's not attacking the idea that there's something before Adam HaRishon. What he is attacking over here? He is attacking their tradition. He is attacking their perspective regarding tradition. He says, what you believe is tradition is not tradition. Because tradition can't be something that is dictated by human beings. Tradition is only something that starts from a godly source. Why it's important, we'll see in the future. That's the claim of the Chaver regarding this perspective. I want to go a little bit more into to ask the obvious question over here. The Chaver is taking over here a huge amount of liberty. Huge amount of liberty to take down a different religion, a different perspective, in the name of what? No, in the name of what? One word. Logic. Right? He says, the problem with this tradition that it's not logical. Tradition can't be, it's not logical to say the tradition is something that starts from a lot of, that you have a lot of traditions, and it starts from a lot of human beings, and it's not from a human being. It says that goes against logic. This doesn't make any sense. What is the problem? It's like a pure sword. You know, there's this term, a pure, no? It's like a sword that has two different edges.
Double-edged sword.
Because, like, you may like stab from one side, but you need to be careful from the other side. Like, אומרים בעברית על ראש הגנב בוער הכובע. It's like, be careful not to attack on logic, because someone can do what? Turn it around. You're talking about logic? Let's check you. And that's exactly what the Chaver is doing. Listen carefully. That's exactly what the Kuzari is doing. אמר הכוזרי, עד כמה שטענתי אליך מהמון יבער מדעת, ובני אדם שנצם הסכמה לדעה אחת, צדקת בתשובתך. So you know what? I accept your answer regarding אנשי דת הודו. ולמה תענה בדבר הפילוסופים? What you will answer regarding the philosophers? אשר הגיעו בחקירה ועיון המדרגות שהגיעו. They don't claim they have a tradition. They got to their understandings from what? From learning. חקירה ועיון. Using logic. והם הלא הסכימו לדעה בדבר נצחיות העולם וקדמותו. And their conclusion was what? That the world was always there. Wasn't created. והנצחיות הלא אינה עניין לעשות אלפי שנים או לאלפי אלפים, כי אין דבר שאין לו סוף. Listen carefully. A person that used logic got to what? Got to the conclusion that the world was never created. So what do you say right now? You attacked the Bnei Dat Hodu from logic. But now I will attack you back because of the logic. You go against the smartest human beings that ever existed. What do you have to say about that? Amar Chaver, listen carefully to the answer, because it's so focused, and we'll teach it in the next few words, and in the next conversation between the Chaver and Kuzari. We teach us a fundamental idea in Kuzari's opinion. Amar Chaver, el הפילוסופים אין לבוא בטענה. They have no claims towards the philosophers. Oh, לא כמו אנשי הודו. Not like the people of Hodu, that the Chaver did have claims toward them. Toward the philosophers? Capiche. Nothing. Ho'il, since, והם אנשים שלא קיבלו חוכמה או דת בירושה. There are people that didn't accept what? A religion or a sense of wisdom. Not say a sense of wisdom, chokhmah. Chokhmah is like a logical system. A system that is already profound, a system that already exists. Beyusha, they never inherited this type of system. Sharem Yavanim, philosophers are what? Greeks. V'Yavanu ibnei Yefet, Yoshvei HaTzafon. V'ilu HaChokhmah, הבא בירושה מהאדם הראשון, and the Chokhmah, and the logical system that came from Adam הראשון, זאת אומרת, החוכמה המוחזקת על ידי העניין האלוהי, and we have something really important. The chokhmah that has what? That has the siyah, that has the siyua, that has the help by the godly interest, העניין האלוהי, עברה מאדם, רק לזרעו של שם. Adam taught it to who? Only to Shem. שהוא בכיר בני נוח. He is what? He is the best son of נוח. ומאז לא פסקה, ולעולם לא תיפסק בחיי אנוש אלו. It said then, it's only in his family. אשר ליוונים, לא הגיע אליהם החוכמה, כי אם לאחר שניצחו את האומות אשר נלחמו בהם. כי אז הודקה החוכמה אליהם מן הפרסים אשר קיבלוה מן הכסדיים. רק אז קמו הפילוסופים המפורסמים במלכות ההיא. ועוד מיום עבור המלכות לרומא, לא קם בין היוונים אף פילוסוף מפורסם יחיד. Oh, listen carefully what he says over here. Extremely interesting. Rabbi Yehuda Halevi brings over here a claim that is fascinating. Rabbi Yehuda Halevi milamed otanu kan is teaching us over here what is the human power. He says, you want me to be honest? I don't blame the Greeks. I don't blame the philosophers because they never had a tradition. And if you don't have a tradition, you're supposed to do what? To think. To use your mind. To use your common sense. He says, the clash between the Greeks and the other nations gave them the tradition, gave them the chokhmah. But it wasn't something that was natural for them. It wasn't something that was them. It was only what? It was only a... What it was? It was only basically something that they learned. And it went through their filter. So you have no blame towards them. I will speak in a second about what it means that since they moved to Rome, nothing happened. Because that's the thing, that's the main claim. He gives over here two separate claims. A, logic. He says, I can't attack logic. I will not attack logic. The Greeks did their best. What's the problem? That logic is not enough. You need logic to get together with tradition. You need logic together with a logical system that will go together stage after stage, stage after stage, generation after generation, generation after generation, till where? Till us. The Greeks had a problem. What's the problem? They never had this tradition. They got a little glimpse of the tradition when they actually got the Persians and the Kasdim. In my opinion, I don't think he's speaking on the Persians and Kasdim bedafka. He's speaking of when they occupied a place that was held by the Persians and the Kasdim and the Bavlim. What is this place? Egypt. No, listen carefully. Egypt. You ever heard about Alexandria? Who lived in Alexandria? What? No. Alexander Mugdon didn't live in Alexandria. Yeah, but who lived in Alexandria? There was one imported Jew that lived in Alexandria. Pilon Alexandron. You ever heard about this name? He is considered to be the mother and father of Jewish philosophy. In Alexandria, something interesting had developed. Jews met philosophy and it mixed. But it was also before. Alexandria was the center, was a melting pot of a lot because the location, just near Eretz Yisrael, at the same time just near Egypt, the center, really the center of knowledge in some way. Center of knowledge was over there for generations and generations. When the Greeks got over there, they made a new world. This world gave him the ability to do what? To understand a little bit from the Chokhmah. What is the little bit of Chokhmah they understood? They understood that at the end of the days there is what? There is a God. Hayvanim evinu levad sheyesh Elokim. Tavinu et ha'ma'ala. We didn't. According to the Kuzari, we had tradition from Adam HaRishon of the existence of God. The Greeks got it by themselves. But there is a limit. Yesh gvul lema she'efshar le'agia levad bli masoret. There's a limit to what you can actually get to by yourself with our tradition. Why is this? I love this this mindset, and I'll explain to you why. What is tradition at the end of the day? At the end of the day, tradition is something that does what? That limits you. We need to be honest over here, right? Tradition is something that limits you. You want to be free. Go with your mind and explore new worlds. But in some ways there's a chain that's always pushing you back. Now it's a virtual chain. It's not a real one. But let's think about ourselves not in terms of religious perspective. Let's think about ourselves as who we are. Adam unof moladeto. A human being is basically the place he was raised in. The stuff even that we go exactly everything 180 degrees different from our house, different from our country, different from our state. We want to be a different people, different person. So the stuff that are grinned into us because we were raised this way, because there is a tradition. Ever thought about it, that in some way families are the same, are alike? Even the rebel of the family, the stuff that you can say, and you can say, he's just part of his family. Now you can say it's genes, but you can say also there are traditions that are grinned into you if you want it or not. You behave according to your traditions. And now, it doesn't matter how free is your mind, your tradition will dictate what will look wrong and what will look correct. This tradition will dictate to you. Doesn't matter. You have no free choice in some way in this question. That is the secret of tradition. Now let's go a little bit more in terms of religiously. Bnei Adam, human beings, can research and get to a lot of conclusions. But what tradition does? Traditions puts limits on your conclusions. I'll give you an example. What happens to a nation that doesn't have a tradition that actually puts limits, that is putting limits on their conclusions? A nation or nations that did kill God, that killed the concept of a godly tradition. Modern day nations, there are two, right? Actually, the two worst regimes in the history of the world. No, I don't know the history of the world, but the two worst regimes in the history of the modern world, right? Russians, Soviet Union. They killed any type of tradition, right? Made a lot of sense. Made a lot of sense. I can see the sense in communism. If someone that is talented enough will stand on a podium and will try to convince me, most of the chances he will not, but maybe he will. There's a sense over there. It doesn't work, but there's a sense. The other perspective is a German Nazi perspective. Again, a tradition without a God. What happens when you have a logic without a God, a tradition without a God? What happens then? There are no limits. There are no boundaries. There are no boundaries. You can't, nothing stops you. In some way we can say even more, because there's no one word, extremely important. No musar. A chokhmah is the musar. At the end of the day, if we need to define what the Jewish nation brought to the world from this perspective of a godly tradition, it's only one word: musar. When you have a godly tradition that limits you, so you're obligated to a musar, because you're obligated to something that is even in some way stronger than your tradition. You're obligated to something that is in some way better in your tradition than your own logic. A musar ha'eloki defines at the end of the day your musar ha'tiv'i. That is exactly the chokhmah. Greeks got it in some degree. When the logic of Greek met the tradition of the Semitic world, something had happened. They realized there is a God by themselves because they were influenced. But at the same time, when the center moved from Greek to where? To Rome, what happened? What stopped actually? Philosophy stopped. What came back? Paganism. Pagans came back, right? Romans were what? Pagans. Why? What happened? When the human philosophy, when it doesn't meet the tradition, so paganism comes back. When human philosophy is not obligated at all to any sense of tradition, paganism in the worst ways come back. And again, I will send you again to the German, to the Nazi regime, and to the Soviet Union regime. Pagans. Germans, definitely pagans. If you speak with people that lived in the Soviet Union, they will claim also that they are also in some way pagans. What?
Stalin was a god of Stalin.
The son, right? Shemesh Ha'amim, the son of the nations. That's the way you say it. And Stalin was the Shemesh Ha'amim, the son of all the nations. I don't know what's the term. What is the term in English? But listen about it. Think about it. What is the sun? The sun is the strongest what? Avodah Zarah. The god of sun is the main god in the Egyptian Avodah Zarah, right? Ra. It's going back. They went back to be pagan. That is a big blessing. And I know you will laugh, but that's a big blessing that Islam and Christianity brought to the world. Now, more than everything, doesn't matter that we have a lot of claims. Doesn't matter that they're correct. Doesn't matter that they're broken. It doesn't matter a lot of stuff. At the end of the day, we need to ask. There's a big question about what happens today, what happens in Masot Tzlav, in the crucified Inquisition. There's a lot of questions. But in the same time, they didn't got to the same level of the Nazi regime. What happens today in Iran, you will ask me? It's a question. It's a question that I'm not sure it's real Islam. I'm not sure what happens right now in the Muslim world is real Islam. There's a good chance it's not real Islam, but it's going back to pagan days. There's a sense of paganism, what happens over there.
How do you explain that?
Why is it going back to the pagan?
Where's your proof that they're going back to paganism?
Every dictator is in some way a sense of paganism. Every person that is bigger than everything else, every person that cannot be challenged, that is a sense of being a pagan. Listen carefully. Even the Jewish king is challenged daily. Was challenged daily by the Kohen Gadol, by Nasi Sanhedrin. Was challenged all the time by the Navi. Even the Pope is challenged. Pope is challenged by the cardinals. They don't 100% listen to him. There's a lot of inner politics. Every person that is not challenged, it's a problem. Because a person that is not challenged at the end of the day, that is exactly going back to being pagan. Paro, what Paro does, he is the one king that is also the ultimate God. He goes out to the Ye'o to hide what he's doing, that he's actually a human being, right? That's Paro, sense of paganism. Now listen carefully, that's in some ways that is fascinating. According to the Torah, now again I'm not talking history, but Torah I think sends a message over here. When was the best time of the Egyptian regime? When Yosef was the vice, right? What Yosef did, he in some way also challenged Paro and also made everyone equal. Now some people will say that's exactly the communist system, making everyone equal. But at the same time, it was done in a way that the differences between human beings still stayed. You still had Kohanim over there, you still had Levim, you still had workers. It's one day maybe we'll give a shir about the economical system that Yosef actually did offer for Egypt. Definitely wasn't communist, wasn't right-wing American economy, definitely. But again, every generation has its own set economy. What is important is that logic, without tradition, at the end of the day, will send you back to be pagan. No doubt about it. Because tradition limits you. The tradition stops you. What is the symbol of paganism in the Torah? The Molech. Sacrificing, burning your own children. The Baal. Right? Insane sexual sexual practices. These are symbols of paganism. Our system, our world that is religious, that is limited by religious traditions, is a healthier place. It's definitely a healthier place. Next week, we will speak about an interesting question. So, okay, I understand logic and tradition. But is there any challenge between logic and tradition? Should we have a challenge between logic and tradition? The answer to that we can see through the entire book, but this will be already Shavua Haba.